In Chapter 4, Krishna describes the result that somebody gets when they follow the process of sacrifice with good faith. And the result is that you receive transcendental knowledge, or genuine knowledge of the self beyond circumstance. We all think that we know ourselves, or if somebody were to ask us who we are, then we often rattle off things like how old we are, and where we work, and where we're from, or where we're living at the time. Maybe we say something about our family, if we're married, or we have children. And this is how we identify our own existence. And yet, Krishna is helping Arjuna recognize that all of those proximities for identity will fade. They all go away eventually. And so his grandfather, who's on the other side of the battlefield, his uncle, who's on the other side of the battlefield, his cousins who are on the other side of the battlefield, they're not actually his cousins. They're not actually his grandfather. They're not actually his uncles, because in the ultimate sense, everyone is related as children of Krishna, as children of the Supreme. And so when Arjuna begins to see things on that level of identity in relationship to divinity, then all of the anxieties that he's experiencing, all of the fears he's experiencing, all of the anger he's experiencing related to his situation in the immediate, where he's worried about what's going to happen to his family and to his name and to his prestige if he fights in this battle, all of those unbecoming considerations will fade into the background, and he'll be able to act in everyone's genuine best interest. And so this is what Krishna describes as transcendental knowledge. And he explains that in order to really receive transcendental knowledge, the concern has to be for a positive understanding of the spiritual self. It's not enough just to recognize that I shouldn't over-identify with my physical body. I shouldn't over-identify with my family or the country I was born in or the size of my bank account. It's not enough just to recognize that these things are who we are not. We also have to develop a genuine positive sense of who we really are. And the magic way to do that, Krishna gives the secret of in chapter 4, text 9. It's one of the most famous verses in the whole Gita, and Srila Prabhupada quotes it many times in his other books. He says, Janma Karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha, yaktvadeham punarjanma, naiti mam eti sarjuna. Krishna says, Janma Karma chame divyam. These two words, Janma and Karma, are the important ones. Janma means appearance or birth, and Karma means activities. So Krishna is explaining that if you understand my appearance and my activities, then when you leave this body, when the soul, which is just inside the vehicle of the body, gives up the body and is ready to move on to its next position, at that time, if the soul recognizes its genuine relationship with me, then that soul won't have to come into this temporary material situation anymore, but it will move to the eternal spiritual realm, where it will experience itself and everyone else as eternal, full of knowledge, and completely happy. And conversely, when you over-identify with the physical situation that we're in at present, when you still have your sense of identity rooted in those things like job and family and bank accounts, then you'll have to come back to this place, because those attachments, that lust for that experience, will pull you there. So to develop this transcendental knowledge, each of us have a different path of sacrifice that's recommended. And that's what the second part of chapter 4 is describing by Krishna. That everybody has, according to their particular situation, a path that they can follow. Whether he's a person that lives in a home with family and children, or someone who lives in a monastery and takes up a life of asceticism, whether somebody is a man or a woman, or even a child, everyone has a place they can start from in their walk towards this experience of transcendental knowledge. And to understand exactly where I'm starting from and which direction to head and how to take those steps, Krishna recommends that Arjuna and everyone else accept the guidance of a bona fide teacher. And so this is the other very important text in chapter 4 that we hear Prabhupada quote often, is chapter 4, text 34, where Krishna explains to Arjuna, by accepting a bona fide teacher, by rendering service to them and inquiring from them about our real situation, that's how the magic knowledge of our real identity is transferred. Not by any particular endeavor of our own, not that we can understand it without that help, but that we're really actually dependent on somebody who has that understanding already giving it to us. Just in the same way, if we don't have any money, we have to expect and hope and wait for somebody else to give us some. Maybe because we work for them, maybe because they just give us a gift, or we win the lottery. But somehow or other, the money that we don't have has to come from someone who does have it. And so Krishna explains that same process for transcendental knowledge, that ultimately it has to flow from one who has it to one who doesn't have it, in order for the person who doesn't have it to really experience and receive it.